Okay. It's back! Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my monthly wrap-up video in which I share my thoughts on all the books that I have read this month, and I have to say this month I am pretty proud of myself. I definitely didn't read all the books I wanted to read. If you guys saw from my TBR video, I was a little overzealous in regards to how many books I wanted to read this month, but I did end up reading a whopping 9, which for me that's generally pretty great, especially considering I only read 3 books last month. The first book that I read this month, or that I finished this month, is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This book, if you guys watched my last wrap-up, you kind of know how I feel about this book already. I feel very conflicted about this book. If you have watched my anticipated releases video, you know that this book is one of my most anticipated releases for the year. I was really excited about this. There was so much hype surrounding it, but when I actually read it, I feel like it's a good book, and the writing is good. Victoria Aveyard's writing is really good. I had nothing against this book other than the fact that when I read it, I just felt really underwhelmed. I didn't get particularly attached to any of the characters. The story didn't feel super innovative. I think I initially gave this like a 3.5, maybe a 4-star out of 5, and then I actually went back afterwards and I brought the rating down to like a 2.5, maybe 3-star. I do think that this book might be good for people who maybe don't read as much fantasy or dystopian as I do, but for me I just was really underwhelmed by this, so that was my major concern about this. I am interested to read the next installment of this because, like I said, I did like Victoria Aveyard's writing, and I do want to see where the story progresses, and I want to see if maybe it takes a different turn, and if maybe the second installment feels a little bit more new. If you maybe haven't read as much fantasy or dystopian, I do think that you would like this. I can definitely see why a lot of people really like this, but for me it didn't feel new enough for me, and like I said, it left me feeling very underwhelmed, but it's not a bad book, if that makes sense. The next book that I read definitely did not let me down, and I am so glad I finally picked it up. It is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This book was so great. This story is about 2 friends who are insanely smart, and they basically find a way for people to get superpowers. They were researching EOs and the effects of adrenaline and how a person can become an EO, which is an extraordinary person. And through a series of tests, they actually get superpowers themselves. And you would think that this was going to be like this typical superhero story, but it is not. The characters in this are so flawed and so interesting. If you are a fan of twisted characters, this would be the book for you, because the concept of the superhero is so different in this. I don't even know what to say about this book. It was so fantastic. I loved all the characters. They weren't necessarily likable for the most part. None of these people are the kind of selfless superhero willing to sacrifice themselves for the better of humanity type people, but you still kind of get attached to the characters. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like I said, if you guys want me to do a like full review on this, please let me know. This is another one that I really wanted to do a review on this, but the month was a little too insane and I didn't get a chance to. But it's such a fantastic book. Highly recommend it. Honestly, I really do. It's so great. And I am even more excited to get my hands on A Darker Shade of Magic now by V.E. Schwab. Just a fantastic book all around. I absolutely adored it. And then after that, I decided to pick up The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I've had this book in my possession for the longest time. I decided to finally read it, and I loved it. I loved it so much. The characters are all so interesting individually. Obviously there are some kind of supernatural magical elements, but the thing that really made me fall in love with this story was the characters. They are all very, very different from one another, but they kind of all complete each other really well. The supernatural elements are really interesting. It's not something that I've read about with the mythology and the stuff that's going on in this book. The writing, I think, is really, really well done. I honestly thought that there was going to be a lot more emphasis on blue in this book. I feel like there was not a lot of emphasis on blue, and it kind of focused on the boys a lot, which I actually really liked, because it's not a super romance-driven novel. I feel like there's so many other stories, and the characters are all kind of explained really well. The romance, even though it sounds like it's going to be a really big part through the synopsis, actually kind of takes the backseat to everything else that's going around. And I really, really love how the characters' relationship kind of grows with one another. Like, the boys are all really great friends, and then Blue joins in and she kind of becomes a really integral part of the group, and I really, really like that. I think it was just really well done. I'm talking for way too long. This video is gonna be insane. And then the next book I read is possibly my favorite book of the year so far. It is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So if you're a fan of retellings already, let me tell you, this book is so good. Well, if you're older than, I'd say maybe 15 or 16, this book is for you. Not a lot, but it does have some sexy content. Just warning you guys. This book is about a girl named Tehereh who is a huntress. She comes from a really wealthy family. Her dad kind of lost all his money and now they are super poor. She's basically the person who is keeping her family afloat. She becomes a huntress essentially in order to do that, and one day as she is hunting out in the woods, she kills a wolf who ends up being a fairy. Tehereh is then forced to take responsibility for this fairy's life, and she is kidnapped, kind of, and sent to the fairylands where she meets a lot of people, falls in love. If you guys are familiar with the Beauty and the Beast story, you can kind of guess where the story is going from. I think that when I first started reading this, this is another book I really wanted to do a discussion on, but graduation stuff just kind of took hold and I didn't get a chance to. In the beginning, particularly in the beginning, maybe 2/3 of the story, you really see the Beauty and the Beast story coming through. But what I really loved is that even though I kind of saw what was going to happen because it is a retelling, there were so many other elements included to this that just made the story feel really innovative. I think that particularly with a fairy tale like that we're basically all familiar with, it's really important to still make the story feel fresh, even though we all know basically the bones of what is going to happen. So I really love this. I love where the story is going. I heard that the second book is going to be a Persephone and Hades retelling. That's kind of where my mind went when I saw how things turned out at the end. This book, straight up 5 stars out of 5. It's fantastic. It's great. Favorite book of the year so far. I absolutely loved it. It's so good. And then after that, I decided to pick up a sweet contemporary because I could feel myself going into a slump because of that book, because the hangover for that book was so real. I decided to pick up a sweet contemporary to kind of, you know, take me out of it before I really got into it, if that makes sense. I decided to read The Fill-In Boyfriend by Kasie West. This is my first Kasie West book I've read. This is about a girl who gets dumped on the night of her prom, like in the parking lot. So when she is dumped, she is forced to come up with a fill-in boyfriend right on the spot, and she picks a guy who was waiting for his sister out in the parking lot. The premise sounds really insane, and I have to admit that in the beginning of this I found the premise to be a little hard to believe, but the story really won me over. Really sweet book, but it's definitely not going to be a favorite for me. I did have some issues with it, particularly towards the end. I didn't feel like there was enough of a resolution. I wanted Mia, who is the main character, to do certain things that she didn't do. I enjoyed it. I think it was sweet, it was fast-paced and adorable, but like I said, not a favorite. The next 3 books that I read were the books that I read for Ribset, and those were Fairest by Marissa Meyer, Frostbite by Richelle Mead, and Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what I thought about these books because I already did a Ripsat wrap-up, which I will link right here for you guys to go and check out. I think this video is long enough as it is, so I'm not even going to get into this right here. I just realized I'm so dumb. I almost forgot one book. Where's my Kindle? I did read one more book that I almost forgot to tell you guys about because I read it on my Kindle. It is Unravel by Tehereh Mafi. This is the second book in the Shatter Me series. Guys, I love Warner. He is such a problematic character, but I love him. He is so good. I obviously can't really tell you guys what this book is about because it is a sequel. I love Warner. He is such a complicated, grudgingly lovely character. Like, he's such a complicated character, and he's so and sorry Ilse, by the way, sorry, but I like Warner. I can't help it. If you guys follow me on Goodreads, I think my review for this book was just like, well shit, I love Warner. How the fuck did that happen? Which I feel like it's a very accurate experience. That is literally what I was thinking, and I just typed it. But anyway, those are the books that I read this month. I think I had a pretty good reading month. I'm a little proud of myself. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on any of the books that I read, particularly about Warner. I have so many feelings about Warner. I have so many feelings about ACOTAR. I already want to reread that book. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. And that doesn't happen very often anymore. So yeah, that is it for this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye guys! So today's video is going to be my Ripsat wrap-up video, and right off the bat, let me just say that I definitely did not read all the books I had intended to read.